Guys, so really the first step in coming up with your pricing for like renovations or installations, the first thing that we kind of want to knock down and say is really not the right way to do it. We don't want to see you guys get burned. We don't want to see you guys lose money, is pricing by the zone. We have a lot of guys coming into our system or that we're like advising, and they'll come in and say, yeah, we charge a certain price per zone, flat price per zone, 400, 500, 600, whatever it is. That pricing structure simply does not work. There's too many variables of the job to come up with one standard price per zone. If you do that, you're either going to be way too low or way too high. Sometimes you'll get lucky and it'll be a simple job with, you know, no other factors, and your price will be good. But the first thing you want to consider if you're going to price like this, and maybe a reason why it's not correct, would be your pressure and flow. Okay? How are you coming up with a standard price per zone, giving customers a price of $500 per zone if, you know, the flow varies on every house, every property? You know, sometimes you're getting 6 rotaries on a zone, sometimes you're only getting 2. So how do you have a standard price per zone, or how do you know, give customers pricing like this? Now, you can go to the job, you could estimate, you could look around and come up with some random price per zone, or just make it up in your head. If your price per zone is 400 but the flow's a little low, all right, it's 450. You know, but that's not an accurate way to come up with your price. It should really be done more, you know, based on all the individual factors that go into a job, which we're going to go over. But there's no way that you can come up with a standard price per zone or list a standard price per zone on your website if the pressure and flow varies at every house. So this is kind of a lazy way to come up with your pricing. The better way to do it would be to break down all the features of the install into a software, into an estimating template, and build it out like that. I guarantee you, if you do that and you just run those numbers for a few different jobs, you know, you're going to see the change from pricing in the zone versus, you know, building out based on individual features. The next reason why I don't think pricing by the zone would work would be your truck or your crew. Okay, so how does pricing by the zone at $500 a zone cover, say, if it's a 2-day job? You know, your guys need to get paid for the time it takes to travel from, you know, your shop to the job site, and then back to the shop again, and then to the job site in the morning, then back to the shop again. So how is coming up with a standard price per zone accounting for your guys in the truck doing all that traveling back and forth and back and forth? It might work on a 1-day job, but on a 2-day job, you know, how are you adjusting this price to make sure that it's going to cover all your guys' travel costs? So with the guys traveling, you know, there's first off, your overhead of paying them, especially if it's a busy season and they're on overtime, which is going to be our next point in the video, separate point. But you have, you know, the truck, you have the crew, you have insurance, you have everything that goes into getting them there, gas, and just their time sitting in traffic. So you need to account for that, all the trips back and forth to the job site. So don't overlook it. It'll hurt you. It'll sometimes kill all your profit on the job. But again, another reason why giving a flat price for a zone does not work. You need to build out separately. Like in our templates, we have, you know, everything built separately, obviously. But if it's a 3-day job, we enter 3 next to, you know, job setups or job travels. If it's a 4-day job, we enter 4. If it's a 1-day, we enter 1. So this is going to help you account for the travel time back and forth. So a third reason, hopefully you guys can see this, main and wire. So does pricing by the zone incorporate if you need to run multiple valve boxes, a lot of footage of main, a lot of footage of wire? You know, how are you calculating this? You might say, well, I'm calculating that separately. Okay, so you're calculating this separately, but you have a standard price here, but you kind of add this on if there's a certain footage. You know, what footage of main and wire is built into this price? Are you using it sometimes? Are you not using it sometimes? Are you going to be overpriced or underpriced? Again, your main should almost be a separate line item that you can select. You have 1-inch main, 1.5 inch, 2-inch, whatever, you know, jobs you're on. Wire, same thing. You have your different strands of wire, and you have the footage for each one. And, you know, built into that is going to be all your miscellaneous fittings that you need, wire splices. You have to come up with the time, you know, that it takes to put, say, 100 feet of main in the ground and connect it. You know, build that all into a per foot price rather than just adding it in per zone. There's a lot that goes into it, and you don't want to just build it in and think it's okay or throw a random $50 on per zone for it. So the reason I'm giving you guys these examples is we have guys that we've converted over to franchises who had their own companies and, you know, built their own pricing structure, which good for them. They went in and built a pricing structure, but it's really not refined. It's really not accurate most of the time. And I know a lot of guys out there are pricing by the zone, and they probably have been for years, but you know, you have to ask yourself, are you getting the full dollar amount that you could be? Are you losing some jobs because you're too high? You know, it's just very hard to have a standard set price for an industry or a job that has so many variables. So the fourth variable I want to talk about would be labor. Okay? Really additional labor. So is your price per zone accounting for if there's roots, rocks, pavers you have to lift up? Is it accounting for an area of the yard where, say, they have to completely dig by hand opposed to running the machine? You know, what other factors for additional labor? Is it hard to, you know, tap into the main line? Is there more plumbing involved? Is it old plumbing? Are there a lot of, you know, cable lines, electrical lines, or markouts running through the property where you have to do a lot of, you know, hand digging? Is that accounted for? Do you have to tunnel under, you know, bore under any driveways, sidewalks, anything like that? Do you have to drill inside the house to put a timer inside the house? Does the customer want the timer all the way on the back side of the garage where you need to, you know, run a wire around, which would really be this one, but it's also additional labor? Is there anything else on the site that might be additional labor? What other things, you know, can you think of? Just if the ground's really hard, if it's a new construction home where, you know, they throw all types of crap in the ground and you're digging through 2x4s and rocks and all this stuff, you know, you got to put on additional labor for that. So again, if you have just a flat price per zone, it's never going to work for all this, and that's why you need software. Software is so important. You should have each item individually lined out. You know, what type of heads, 4-inch heads, 6-inch heads, 12-inch heads. You have a price for each one. You have, you know, miscellaneous materials, additional labor. You have zone valves, which can include your valve boxes, you know, wire, any type of promotions that you're running, any type of drip emitters, feet per drip with staples included. All that kind of stuff should be broken down separately. So what I advise you to do, take your price list from your supplier, look at everything, put a duration onto everything. How long is each of these items, you know, going to take to install? Always add on a little extra, but you'll see a massive change from a flat, you know, pricing per zone versus breaking down individually. So hopefully this first point helped you guys, and we'll move on to the next one. Guys, so the second point I want to go over with you guys is pricing levels. Now, again, we're talking about larger jobs like estimates or renovations or anything like that. What I advise you guys to do is come up with a few different pricing levels. You know, listen, for this business, we're a seasonal business, your costs vary, your overhead varies throughout the year, and as should your pricing. You can't be giving the same pricing all year, and I'm going to go over those couple reasons with you guys right now. So, pricing levels. So, really the first reason why you can't be giving the same prices for your jobs all year is that the business is seasonal, okay? Now, what does this actually mean? So if you're heavy in the springtime, you know, more work in the springtime, guess what? Your overhead is very heavy in the springtime. You have, first off, your crews to pay, who are probably going to be on overtime and going to cost you more. You have your office staff, who you should be staffing from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. at least, you know, to bring in a lot of phone calls during the busy season. You have your office staff to pay for. You have increased software fees for all your software, all the, you know, upped usage for your tablets, for your office software systems, anything like that. You have increased advertising during those times. So those are peak times when you want your name out there. You want to be on Google, Home Advisor, Angie's List, Thumbtack, Yelp, all those kind of things. Really, you know, dominating. Really, if you're trying to pick up customers, it's a competitive market at that time. So you need to spend more on advertising during that time. So basically what I'm getting at is your price in the spring is not your same price, say, in the dead of summer or, you know, whatever area that you're in, your peak season versus your slower season. So you have to charge differently, okay? So let me give you guys an example. So say you have a, you know, one of your installers who's, say you pay him $20 an hour, okay? You get that, this guy's getting $20 an hour all year. You know, that's his salary. Maybe he's going to get a bonus of $1 or $2 an hour, but let's just say he's at $20 an hour. Now, in the springtime or busy season, you know, most guys, if you're really trying to grow your business and really trying to push it hard, you know, you're not doing 40 hours a week. You're probably doing more like 70, 80 hours a week. So this guy's on a lot of overtime. So his, you know, what he's really costing you at the end of the day, overtime would be, he'd be at $30, okay? for time and a half, right? That's time and a half, right? $30. But what you also have to consider is you're going to have increased taxes on him, increased payroll taxes. You know, anything revolving around him, you're going to have more. So he's probably more like costing you like $40 an hour, okay, during this time of the year, because he's working so many hours. The overtime is just going to trigger, you know, so much. So he's probably costing you $40 an hour during your peak season of the year. Now, again, this is just a rough example. I'm not taking accurate numbers, but just to give you guys the point, you know, some type of example. So he's costing you this much during your busy season. So how are you going to price a job the same all year when during this time of year this guy's costing you $40 an hour, but say towards the winter he's really only costing you the $20 an hour because, you know, there's not that much overtime. So this same concept is going to apply to your office staff too. So the best way to do this, you know, since the season fluctuates, is you also have kind of fluctuating prices, okay? And I believe, you know, there's probably other businesses out there that are seasonal and do a similar thing. So what I advise you guys to do is just come up with, it's not easy, it's easier said than done, but think of the concept. I think what we do is we have 5 different pricing levels, okay? And they vary, but obviously, you know, this one would be the highest during, say, your peak season, which, you know, there's nothing wrong with this. It's not like you're charging the customer more. You just need to get paid for your, you know, what you need to cover. If the customer wants a better price, they can come to you at the slower time of the year. But if they want it when it's hot and when it's the spring, they have to, you know, pay for what it costs to install it at that time. So say 5 is your level, you know, high level pricing. I would come up with a base pricing that's really just like, this is just literally covering your materials for the job, nothing more. So you're kind of setting your 2 standards right there. This is a nice profit on the job, covering all your overhead. This is just a straight, you know, coverage of just your basic material cost, basic labor cost, but like literally just like breaking dead even. Right in the middle here could be your sweet spot of like, you know, an average time per year, an average price where you're still making money on the job and you're still staying competitive. With these pricing levels too, the best thing to do is if you have a lot of competition in your area, when you're going on these estimates sometimes from, you know, other customers, they'll show you the other guy's pricing. You really need to start collecting all your competitors' pricing in the areas. So anytime we go into a new area, you know, you got to come up, you know, you got to gather all the intel from that area. You'd be surprised in all the different states, the different ways that guys come up with prices for irrigation and the different price levels they're getting it at. So it varies a lot. So it might vary where you are too by county, you know, depending where you're at. So, and also depends on material. Material prices can vary a lot per state. You would think it's all the same, but I'll tell you, we cover, you know, pretty much all the East Coast right now, and there's much different prices, let's say in Connecticut than Florida. The material, somehow, magically, they have different prices for this stuff. All right, guys, so another big thing that's really important when coming up with your pricing, and this all relates back to software, and it all relates back to you doing a lot of research about your business, you know, and just going through, you know, all your past years and all the prices you've gave, you know, doing your job costs on each job and really seeing where you're at. But another important thing that's going to help you guys build your business and help you guys hopefully get more irrigation jobs would be to have optional pricing, okay? Again, like I said, you know, we're kind of all over the place. We see a lot of estimates from other companies. We see a lot of different markets. So I'm going to tell you guys, one of the best ways that you can try and get more irrigation jobs is to give optional prices to your customers. We see too many times that guys, you know, kind of come in and just give one flat price for the job, say it's $8,000, and the customer's kind of blown away, where meanwhile, you know, customer's budget was only $5,000. So you have to kind of give them an option for $5,000 and give them the other option for $3,000. So an example I want to give to you guys, and I think I have it in the title here, is kind of just like, you know, you want to model big companies. You don't have to recreate the wheel here. So something pretty cool is what this company does, okay? McDonald's is pretty much the biggest company, you know, in the world, let's call it. Think about their pricing for a second. They have, or their menu, they have small, medium, large, okay? Why do you think they have 3 different sizes, okay? And it's not to make sure that you can get, you know, whatever size that you want. Really what it is it's all based on pricing. It's kind of a tactic to force you into something. So which one do you think that you're most likely going to buy? Which do most people buy? Okay, so for example, small. This is way too small. It's never going to fill you up. Most people are going to ignore it. This one right here, massive. No human being can drink this amount of soda. So what they're doing is they're kind of forcing you right into the middle price, which is probably where they have the most profitability. It's probably their best price point for them. So what they're doing is they're giving you a few different options to choose from, but then they're kind of, you know, they're putting everything into perspective is what I'm saying. So when you just give one price for your job, all this customer's thinking about is the one price. But when you give them 3 different options, it gives them the choice to kind of set their budget, to set how much they want, you know, what they want. So say, for example, this one is $8, or call it $8,000 for talk in terms of a job. Let's say this one is $5, okay? This one right here, they put it 6, okay? Now, any logical person is going to say, all right, the most basic system that doesn't have anything, that's barely going to cover, is $5 grand. But just for another $1,000 more, I can get, you know, upgrades to a more efficient system with separate zones for spray heads and everything. But if I really want the best system, which you don't always have to sell the best system too. A lot of guys think they have to go in and design for 6 hours all this crazy stuff. Listen, it's really great and all, and for particular customers, you know, you should be doing that. But I'll tell you right now, most people just want, you know, their plants watered. They want everything green. They want everything healthy. So you're going to get a rare kind of, you know, selection of people that are going to want the all-out job. So what I'm saying is you need to give them the options. So show them what the best job is, show them what the most basic job is, and then push them into, you know, what is kind of like the medium-sized job, the job that'll be good for their budget, it'll be good for their price point, it'll be good for everything. But what I'm saying here is if you just came in with the first price of 8, you know, it's very hard for you to even, you know, break more conversation with the customer. Here's my price, 8,000. Okay, can you do any better? No, I'm sorry, I can't. You know, that's pretty much the end of your conversation. But if you come in and say, hey, listen, here are these 3 packages. You know, this is what I advise on this one, this is what I advise on this one, this is what I advise on this one. And now each one you could always add on to later, okay? An irrigation system doesn't have to be all installed at once. You could add on to it later. So this tactic is really important in pricing. It's going to relate back to, like I said, your software system for irrigation. Since it's such a, you know, it's not a straightforward business. There's a lot of options. There's a lot of different things you could do. Your pricing system and your software has to be flexible. So you should be able to easily punch out these, you know, items on your tablet, on your estimating templates. You should be able to email the customer the options that they can clearly see. They should be able to see what, you know, their base options are, plus what their upgrades are, plus what their, you know, additional options are. Each one should have its own description written to it so you could, you know, sell the job. And I'll tell you guys, this is going to give you a lot of different talking points with the customer. It's going to help you close the job. More importantly, it's going to get them the job that they want, and it's going to give them flexibility to choose from their, you know, their price point. So I hope this helped you guys. I hope you can, you know, start and grow your own irrigation business. I really hope that's what we're doing. So I'll see you guys in the next video.